right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondent Club of Thailand. I'm Panu Wongchaum, the FCCT president. This evening we have a special program for you as part of our exhibition, photo exhibition launch. You can see these photographs all around us. The exhibition showcases photos of the disasters of impact, from the powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake in central Myanmar. The photos themselves were taken by a group of, concerned Burmese citizen photographers organized by Platform 36, who have been mobilizing funds and support for grassroots organization operating in the earthquake area to provide assistance directly to the affected people and communities. So as part of launching this exhibition, we have this lovely panel. I'm very honored to have all these distinguished speakers joining us, all four of them, who will be talking a little bit about the work, the photography, the challenges that photographers and citizen journalists face in Myanmar, but also on a broader update of what this devastating earthquake, the situation, the updating situation, but also the impact of this disaster on sort of the ongoing, calamity and situation in war-torn Myanmar. So without further ado, I would like to, let me first introduce our panelists. So right next to me, we have Kinoma, the chairperson of Progressive Voice. Next to her is Nang Yi, the project coordinator for Platform 36. And then on the far right, we have Stan, management team member of the Myanmar Emergency Response Coordination Unit, or MERCU. And on the screen, joining us from Northern Thailand, Dr. Sripsakul Kitnukorn from the School of Social Innovation, Mae Fah Luang University. He is also a founder of the Chiang Rai Migrant Workers Assistance Center. So welcome everyone to our club on this Friday evening. I want to go first to Nang Yi, because I want you to you probably do a better introduction to the group of photographers and the project that Platform 36 involved with. Please.
Good evening, everyone. So thank you for having me here, and also thank you for joining here today. So I am Nang Yi. I am one of the members of Platform 36, working more on project and organizing this kind of events or exhibition, etc. So I'm gonna first introduce Platform 36, what is it about and who are we. So Platform 36 is a collective space for the Myanmar photographers and photojournalists. So it is founded, our founder is Ye Aung Tu. He's sadly cannot here today. So he's also a professional, well-known photojournalist from Myanmar, recently won international awards. And also he's been, since 2012, he's been training a lot of photographers, photojournalists, and he's been doing a lot of trainings and mentoring, etc. So after coup happened in Myanmar, is simply holding a camera or taking photos, it could be really risky and challenge for you. So we also have a lot of examples, real case story in Myanmar. So one photographer, because he was taking photographs on the street, he got killed in the integration center. And also one photojournalist got sentenced 25 years plus prison time because he is taking the news photo for the Hurricane Mocha. So those kind of things are always happening. So Myanmar photographer and photojournalists, they are still, even though they are having this all kind of hardships and risky situations, they are still taking and documenting and telling the stories about the conflicts, the demonstration, coup, displacement, all of the things. But they don't have much place to showcase their works and to tell their story. There's no platform. They don't have any connections. Not any. I mean, like not enough connection to those international media, etc. So that's how we started Platform 36, because we have all the networks. We have group of photographers and journalists who are working on ground. So Platform 36 try to showcase their photo, their works, by this kind of exhibition. We are planning to do the photo books and small magazine booklets for all of the photographers. And also we are giving mentoring, offering mentorship to them, like how to build their portfolio, how to pitch, how to talk to the international media or publisher, etc. That kind of support we are giving right now. So yeah, that's what Platform 36 is. Yeah.
Great, and thank you, Nanyi. I mean, I want to add as well that the photos that you see on our walls are all for sale, and basically we want to raise fund for members of this platform. So if you are interested, please inquire our office about the payment and that sort of stuff. But really, the FCCT wants to be part of this, helping out sort of this community of photojournalists or photographers, really, that are telling the difficult stories to the world, right? I mean, these are the visual stories that are coming out from a very difficult place, a very difficult place to access to many journalists. Anyway, I want to go next to Stan. Stan, I guess you can give us a broader overview, I guess, of what's the situation have become since the quake.
Yeah. Hello. Nice to meet you all. My name is Stan. I am a member of the Myanmar Emergency Response Coordination Unit, MMERQK, that was founded one day after the earthquake. It's my pleasure to be here, sharing an update of what we have been doing for the last 3 months since the earthquake. I will not be taking so much time, especially on a Friday night, so I'll just highlight some points about the situation right now. So first, I would like to start with how we actually started this small team, right after the earthquake. So we have established networks in different parts of Myanmar. Some are activist organizations, civil societies, and humanitarian organizations. And as we are based in the other side, we want to coordinate and deliver the aid from the international community directly towards them. So we act as a coordination point between the ground units and the international friends and aid organizations and other missions. So during the first days of the earthquake, the connectivity was quite limited and almost impossible. And even at that moment, we started to reorganize some of our friends, some of our volunteers on the ground to start collecting the data. They could use a phone and record the casualties and damages happening around the city. That was quite challenging because most people were over 18, young people who are also applicable with the recently enacted conscription law. So it was quite challenging for them. Some of them are away from their home. Even though their home was destroyed, they have to be far away from home because their lives are in danger of the conscription law and other atrocities by the SAC. So it was quite challenging since the first days of the earthquake. And even among those hardships, they were managed to collect some data and give back to us the need assessment, and the need data was what do we need on the ground, and that's how we could we were able to use that data and reach out to other international communities and friends, and we got some kind of support, and we were able to deliver aid efficiently. We focused on all areas that suffer from the earthquake, and as you know, in our conflict context, only some areas are allowed by the military junta, for example, the Naypyidaw and urban Mandalay, but the earthquake hit so much more areas, more like the rural areas, the areas in the Mandalay, the 3 townships in Mandalay, the Beijing, Maria Senggu, which is like under conflict and which is partially controlled by the resistant pro-democracy forces, and none of the 8 organizations and international NGOs are allowed to enter those areas. But there are like so many casualties in that area, so we also try to get our aid support directly to those areas. That's also one of our focus. But it doesn't mean we don't ignore the urban areas. We try to be as inclusive as possible to reach all the populations that are impacted by the earthquake. And the main programs that we were focusing were accordingly by the reports and data from our ground directly, and we try to update those data as much as possible. But however, it was also very challenging because the people that are living in camps, they don't have like permanent accommodations. They have to be sharing a shelter which can be removed by the authorities at any time. So our data keep changing, and it's also quite hard for us to keep updating them. But we also try our best, and we try to prioritize on what they're needing on the ground. And recently, their main priority is the wash and medical products, because as you know, as you can see in these pictures, the debris and the destructions are too high, and it's impossible for them to rebuild everything in the time of 3 months, or I think even in a year. So it's quite probable that it's more likely that they will be sharing the shelters in community-based buildings like monastery, mosques, and other public areas. So the hygiene kits, and especially for women and more vulnerable populations, the children, there will be more healthcare and other services and hygiene kits needed for them. And also, I think for the long-term recovery, we also have to provide them with more like consolidated things like the NFIs, non-food items, and then cash assistance or something more sustainable for them to recover and rebuild their houses. As you all know, Myanmar has already been impacted with civil war and economic crisis. So this earthquake just like wasn't everything, wasn't the situation. In Inle, in some rural areas, their main income is like tourism, like farming, and like local trading and trading to big cities. And right now, I think everything has collapsed, and they have been very difficult to restart their lives again. And additionally, the military junta, who are supposed to be helping the people, are just like imposing more and more restrictions. They are requiring the 8 groups like step-by-step registration, the medical organizations, licenses, and like bureaucratic processes, which are just making the things on the ground worse and worse. As per some of the interviews I conducted with the ground coordinators, they told me that the people are just helping the people. So it's just people for the people. They have been very resilient among all these crises. But I think all our efforts are not in vain. What we are doing, what we are contributing means something to them, especially this solidarity movement from the international community. That means a lot to the Myanmar people, a lot to the people that have been trying to support the earthquake impacted areas very efficiently. So we're also trying to strategize for the long term. We plan to coordinate and ask for support from international friends, our local friends, and everyone to rebuild and to consider for a long-term sustainability of the aid supports. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stan. I go next to Ajahn Subsakun, who's joining us on Zoom. Ajahn Krap, please. Yes.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for this good opportunity. Okay, let me share my presentation. I would like to share you about some experiences of our migrant worker center, which is a very small organization that we send the goods and humanitarian assistance across the border from the Chiang Rai province through the Tachilek, and our destination is in Mandalay and Sagaing. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next, please. Next, please. Okay, this is our organization, which is the volunteer-based organization. Next, please. Okay, next, please. We found this organization in the first year of COVID-19. Next, please. Okay, we focusing on promoting the rights of the migrant workers who are working in Chiang Rai province. Next, please. Okay, we support the education right for children. Next. Okay, we promote the multicultural integration with Thai community. Next. Again, we provide a community service. Next. Okay. During the last year flood in the city and in the border, we helped more Thai and migrant workers to evacuate from the flood area. Next. Okay, we set up a shelter for migrant workers who were affected by the flood in the city of Chiang Rai. Next. Okay, we helped Thai community to clean up their house last year. Next. Okay, we work with Mephalong University student, which I am a lecturer in this university. Next. Okay, we work with both Thai and Myanmar students. Next. Okay, for the humanitarian assistance, okay, during to respond to the earthquake, this is the area of our work, especially in the Mandalay and Sagaing and Inle Lake. Okay, next. Okay, we call for the donation from the Thai people. These photos show the goods from the hotel in the city that support our donation. Okay, next. Okay. These are the goods that we receive from across the country in Thailand. Next. Okay, this is the mosquito nest, mat, everything that people who were affected by the earthquake need. Okay, next. Okay, this is the way that we facilitate our transportation. Okay, next. We use the local transportation network of the migrant workers because, as you know, like migrant workers, they always sending goods to their hometown in Mandalay or in many locations in Myanmar, right? And at the same time, they also receiving the goods from their hometown, right, across the border. So they have a transportation network like this. So we use this transportation network. Okay, next. Okay, this is in the destination. Like we work with the local network in Mandalay, in Sagaing, and Inle to distribute the goods for the people. Next. Okay, this is the photo just show you. We send it 2 times of the goods to the people, and within this July we plan to transport for the 3rd round to the affected area. Next. And this is we call for the donation for helping the people in the Inle Lake to rebuild their house. And you know, we work a lot with Thai people, right? We believe that it should be like the solidarity between Thai and Myanmar, right? People, right? This is the house that we help the people. It's about 100 houses in the Inle Lake. Okay, next. Okay, the lesson learned. Okay, to send humanitarian assistance across the border, I think we need to build a trust, which is the most important, right? A trust between our organization and Thai society, and our organization and our network and our local network in Mandalay, right? And the second one is we believe that the migrant workers, they are very active citizens, right? As in the public eyes, the migrant workers, they are the marginalized people, right? But in this our humanitarian assistance, we found that migrant workers, they are very active in helping the people in their own in their home in Myanmar. Okay, and the last one, I think we use the border culture, which is the very important resources for cross the border humanitarian assistance. Yeah, we also found have challenges. First of all, we have a delay of the sending, right? Just we plan to send it this week, but we need to collect the goods, so we need waiting for the transportation, blah, blah, blah. So there's a delay of the sending. And the second one is as we are very small organization, so we lack of the resources to help the people more. We know that there are many people who still need assistance. So this is our challenges. That is all for my sharing from our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, ครับอาจารย์สืบสกุล I guess it's a glimpse into sort of these cross-border sort of people-to-people sort of operation that went on. But of course, the scope of the earthquake in Mandalay and Sagaing and in the rest of central Myanmar is very, very severe. Kinoma, I'll come to you now, I guess. You're of course, among other things, a long-term observer of what's going on in Myanmar, and I think you can help us contextualize sort of that disaster with sort of the ongoing political situation, the civil war, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I'll let you speak.
Sure. Thank you, Kumpanu. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. So it's really my pleasure to join the young generation who are trying so hard to bring the change to their country and their future generation as well. No? If I may kind of add more on the information, but also like giving the overview of where things are with regards to the post-quake situation. Like Stan said, it's challenging for the civil society who came right away, mobilizing themselves to respond in 24 hours, really, yeah, 24 hours. They were so fast, so quick, and the networks on the ground are also well experienced, frontline humanitarian responders locally. They are the leaders in their own communities. So it was a very immediate response that I have observed. It's amazing to see how strong and resilient of the civil society in Myanmar, in spite of all of the different immense challenges that they're facing. But then, like Stan said, in the areas, so the world saw, of course, the major collapse of including the ancient Buddhist sculptures and really cultural heritage that world really adore. All of a sudden, people see they all collapse, as some you can see on their photos. So it was quite a the world also immediately responded, of course. There are many different ways the world responded that we saw, we appreciate, including Thailand, like Ajahn, thanks to you, also your leadership in Mephalong University. We've seen the immediate response. We also saw the immediate response in Chiang Mai University, for example. There are a lot of fundraising, and Thai people have, I think there is because the earthquake actually traveled over 1,000 kilometers all the way to Bangkok, I think there was immediate connection that also in this particular moment with the desperation and fear, there is also people-to-people connection, the solidarity, the bond got strengthened. And we saw the Thai people immediately also responded with lots of donations and also making inquiry of what is really happening in Myanmar, which I found that over the past 3-4 years when the Myanmar military the military junta was bombing hundreds of bombs being dropped, even right by their neighboring borders in like Mae Sot. The Thai community in Mae Sot will hear as their earth got shaken up because of the bombs on the other side. But the rest of Thailand were not aware of that. But then once after the earthquake, in relation to the earthquake, we started to see more of even the media, more covering on the man-made or the military-made disaster or the military-made crisis. Because the irony is, as we all will remember, the leader of the military junta called out for the international community's help to respond to the earthquake. Of course, because Naypyidaw was also hit hard, even though they didn't actually expose that right away. But then, the irony is, on the same day, they were still bombing. They were bombing in the areas when the earthquake actually was the epicenter. In fact, the people who, when the earthquake happened, we listened to the people, and people said they thought the earthquake was the bomb. So because they heard of this sound and they thought they were being bombed, and they were kind of like, rushing in to hide under structures where they got even further caught up in the rubble because they thought that was a bomb. So I think that is also, it really links to, the earthquake so devastating with this 7.7 magnitude, and then followed by hundreds of smaller earthquakes or the small, like the aftershock waves, which it goes more than 5.5, right? Which is not small, actually. Even after 3 months, just a few days ago, that was still 2 or 3 more, right? So I think the people, including the friends, relatives, people that we know in Mandalay, even in Yangon, people actually are scared to sleep in their, particularly those who are living in the apartment building or the high-rise buildings. And everybody knows how fragile these buildings, constructions in Myanmar, as all of these construction companies basically rip off. So the quality is so bad, right? So I think there was a lot of this fear. But then, like Stan was saying, if you go beyond those cities where the high-rise building collapsed, where the whole world saw the destruction, massive destruction, but then you will get to the areas where the military junta intentionally block the international humanitarian aid to those more than 3.5 million internally displaced who they have been bombing, who they have been attacking, setting fire on the whole villages, and then firing with the heavy artillery shellings. So for those internally displaced population, they didn't even have home that would collapse because they lost their homes because of the bombs already, you see? I think that is something that we try to explain to the international donors in particular. Yes, we need help. Yes, we need the emergency relief as well as for the next phase of the recovery in city like Mandalay and Sagaing. That's where the epicenter of the quake. But at the same time, we cannot just neglect and set aside millions of population whose house been already destroyed by the military from the bombing and shelling and setting fire. It's challenging because civil society, Myanmar civil society has been raising this voice to the international community, particularly today's title of our panel is to see how possible of the international aid can reach to the most vulnerable population in this particular country where the crisis actually add up one after another, the military cause or the military-made crisis, then added by the 1 year after another natural disaster up to this earthquake. So we're seeing this country with the poly crisis. In that particular situation, the international aid especially being intentionally blocked, how do we actually save the people's lives? As much as the Myanmar civil society and the diaspora and the like-minded donors try, it's not as sustainable and it's not as much as it could have been helpful and needed that can come from the government agencies or the UN agencies. But it's challenging for the UN agencies or the government funding is because for those UN agencies present in Myanmar need to be signing MOU or work with the junta, engage with the junta, even though they understand the whole country is against this military junta. But in that limitation, knowingly that they are being blocked, in order for them to have the presence in the country, they still need to work with the junta, meaning when the aid is to be delivered, they can only go so far to the point that junta will allow them to go. When the junta tell them to return, they just have to return. If the junta tell them to drop the bags and the aid stuff, they just need to drop them. If they don't want to leave there, they can go back and return and put them back in the warehouses. But that's so far the farthest that they could do. So I think that's the very reason, like Ajahn and the group from Mephalong or the Chiang Mai University, when the Thailand civil society and academia and institutions look into this people-to-people border channeling humanitarian aid alongside the Myanmar civil society, and that is the most effective and most timely response that we have found so far, even though the amount that could reach is so little compared to what the international aid will reach into the hands of the Myanmar military junta. That includes for the earthquake. I mean, if you keep monitoring, you will see that military junta keeps showing off on their propaganda, newspaper, and website and Facebook pages of such and such they receive from this and that country, government, or the private companies, or like that. But you will also see, if you really add them up and count them, you will also see that the aid is not reaching to the people. But it's us counting and seeing off the ground. But if you really listen to the people, people also tell that they are not getting. Even those who are in Naypyidaw Council, the ordinary people who live in Naypyidaw Council, that's where the military junta stronghold, right? They are not getting the aid. It is actually the civil society who actually make sure that ordinary people in Naypyidaw area are able to get that, the first phase of the emergency relief aid, but not from the military. So you will see, like, even thank goodness we have the groups who are able to bring out the truth, like Mercy. I think that this relief, what do you call them, the rescue team from Malaysia, for example. Of course, Malaysia being the chair of the ASEAN, then you see that Malaysia was accepted by the military junta right away, and then that they were able to come in and do some rescue work and some relief and some medical stuff. But the challenge that they found, they actually issued a statement in which they stated very clearly that they got obstruction on their way, including the aid obstruction, including the bombing. So it was something that I think that really, like, alarm all of us, especially for people like myself who have come to know this military for my past 37 years of the human rights work, democracy change in this, my mother country. I think, like immediately, it just recalled me right away that of what happened in right after the cyclone Nagis in 2008. And I knew that, the corruption that Myanmar military is able to practice is so endemic, so entrenched, that got me worried immediately, and I'm not the only one, of course. So then there are civil society who come together, calling out to the international donors, the embassies and the missions, diplomatic missions based in Yangon, to go out and monitor, really like to look into their questioning and see where those tons of thousands of tons loads of stuff being delivered end up. They end up in the warehouses, but are they actually being brought out to the people? I think that's where the whole monitoring is so needed, which we're not seeing that much being done. Anyway, let me move to the next point that I want to raise. I think that when we talk about the aid governance and monitoring, and also as a civil society, there is a lot of nuances that we need to be very careful in the aid distribution, because Mandalay and Sagaing, this is the Buddhist heartland majority. But you also have the Muslim minority, for example. And it was the earthquake hit in the time when there were prayer sessions in those hundreds of years of old mosques. And all of these men died. All of these men, hundreds of them died. And their wives, who all of a sudden happened to come to be becoming widow with the children, not even knowing where their husbands or whether they will find the bodies or not. But where do they go? Because the aid donation, if it is carried out by the Buddhist community, is led by the Buddhist monks, yeah? And then you have to be able to look into that potential and fair distribution. It could be because the Buddhist majority just don't look into the vulnerability of the minorities because they don't understand or they don't know. Or also for the minorities, like the Muslim women in particular, how can they go into the Buddhist temple ground where it is seen as the sacred for the Buddhist, as being the Muslim community who've been traditionally marginalized and discriminated? It's difficult. So now as the civil society, we have to look into how are we going to ensure this minority community and the women from another faith who will not probably feel comfortable already or who may be scared to go and ask for the aid from those who are distributing, who are actually led by the Buddhist monks. So I think there are a lot of these things that we had to look into also. And I just want to come back to this haunted control areas. The challenge is, like I said, the civil society is very strong. Those remain in the country also. That includes the civil disobedience movement members who continue to remain in the country very quietly. And of course, many of them are with the National Unity Government. And right after the earthquake, they started to also operate very quietly for the aid distribution as well as the health situation. Many of them even perform their operations very quietly. Of course, junta cannot know. So it's very challenging for them also because if they are found, they will be arrested right away. And that's another challenge linked to what Stan, what you said about the forced conscription. Because even the second night after the earthquake, right in Mandalay city, where the most disastrous situation, there was the forced conscription was already enforced. About 20 young men were actually came before the midnight when they had to go because they won the lottery. They won the lottery, which is a forced conscription. They got on the list, so they had to go. I mean, when their families are all shaken up and have no place to live, but these men had to go. So that led to the larger civil society, as Stan said. They got so many challenges, but also right now, what I learned is that what do they call it? Post-disaster need assessment, right? PDNA. So post-disaster need assessment is something that civil society in the country very capable of carrying out. But now they are so scared of doing because those who tried to do that got arrested. Some of the local aid responders got beaten up, not only the aid being obstructed, but also they got harassed, they got looted, their aid things are being taken away, but also they were harassed to give the money if they want to bring the aid. oh, there's so many other ways of this quiet ways of military people on the ground are also doing. Like many of them, their phones were being searched. They had to transfer right away through their Cambodia bank pay account if they want to bring the aid to the people, things like that, no? So I think it's a very challenging at the moment, but now the international community who keep trying to help, they are saying that this is the phase for the recovery. I see that, yes, it is true, but in the civil society response, some of the early recovery were already addressed by you guys. But at the same time, there is still the basic needs, the urgent needs are still very much needed for many of the communities who never received any basic needs. So I think that recovery stage is not black and white, simple like that, because it is still in the mix of depending on which community, which area, and how much they have access to the international aid, or how much of the military junta is now keeps bombing and also shelling. So I think these are the mix of this poly-crisis with the military-made crisis and the natural-made disasters like the earthquake. And I think at this point, I think for the recovery stage, the challenge that I would see is that, you know, like in the cyclone Nagis, the UN and ASEAN in combined, they have this tripartite core group that they set up during the ASEAN, former ASEAN Secretary General, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan from Thailand. But some people look into that, whether it's a potential or possible recovery model, but I have raised my voice and saying that it is not possible. Under the current circumstances, it is not possible. But it doesn't mean that we need to just sit and wait, because we should still be looking into the other alternative channels, such as like the border, through the border channels, people-to-people solidarity as one of the alternatives, especially for the INGOs based in Myanmar. They are not, it is not their mandate. They cannot address the recovery, because recovery really involves this rebuilding of the infrastructures. That's not their mandate, right? But their mandate still can address the people ongoing basic needs. But they need to find their alternative solution joining with the civil society, because that's the only way the aid will reach to the people who are in need. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kinoma. I will open the floor now for Q&A. So there's a microphone at the back of the room. Please state your name and also the name of the panelists you want to ask. Anyone? Please.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing insights and also for bringing us these photographs. My name is Sonali. I come from the Earth Observatory of Singapore. And I'm not a seismologist myself, but I've heard my colleagues and my professors talk about the Sagaing fault for many years now. So I just wanted to know what was the awareness of the seismic risk in this region and the preparedness for it. And I mean, it's open to anyone, but Stan, you mentioned that your unit was just formed, like right after the earthquake. Thank you.
I'll be very brief, but anyone can add it up. So about the preparedness, for Mandalay, the regions I mentioned that are not reachable by the international aid agencies, they have been quite prepared because the military has been like conducting airstrikes and burning of the villages. So they are like humanitarian like mechanisms. It's not like a very systematic mechanism, but informal trainings, awareness sharing programs that are led by the community. So those networks and resources came in handy when we planned to respond to the earthquake on the areas that have been like used to the, how do I say, the conflicts and things like that. But on the urban area, I think, and as I heard from the reports and the interviews, it was not quite ready for any disaster or any big humanitarian cause because of the mechanisms the military junta have, how do I say, being like inefficiently implementing. So, yeah.
Any more questions? Oh, please. I have some questions of my own, but I'll let the floor ask first.
Hello, yes, thank you very much for the photos and for coming here to speak to us. The question I have, sorry, my name is Nicholas George. The question I have is, how do you think any potential election can play into a situation or be possible with the destruction of the earthquake? How do those two factors fit together? Thank you.
I think Kinoma.
Well, first of all, it's also, I mean, this military has this very, the very typical mindset, I would say. Like after the cyclone Nagis in May 2008, when the whole world said we're coming to help save the people's lives, the military junta led by General Than Shwe at that time immediately said no, but then immediately announced that they will hold the people's referendum to adopt the 2008 constitution that they drafted. They let 140,000 people die to basically, so that international community will not destruct their political plan. And then they used the international aid in exchange of the vote from the people. Basically, people were in so much need. So if you just bring a sack of rice and a bottle of oil, then in exchange, there is a vote for the referendum. Yes, of course, right? So I think that is similar. I mean, General Mandalay at this time, I mean, this is something also along his line that he learned from his seniors. So it seems like also that's why we are also wondering of how the international aid, especially in kind as well as the cash, which they can manipulate with the 4 different kind of exchange rates to save the US dollar. They can actually, they could see this earthquake as a jackpot for them to actually, to get the benefit for their political gain, which is the planned election. That immediate after the earthquake, they started announcing that they will hold the election, and then they've been even speeding up in the last 3 months since earthquake. So now they are really speeding up with a plan. So my take is they find that this is their opportunity for them to even go ahead and make the plan proceed, because recovery stage is where the international community will still look into more or less supporting somehow. Whether the recovery plan is still with him or he already shared with the Malaysia Prime Minister or with the UN agencies, that we don't know. But it's very possible that they have a plan which can be actually utilized towards the holding of the election, as he announced will be December and January. The other thing around the election that I can share with you is that since after 2021, of course, for the military junta himself, Mayala himself and his junta, the way how they tried to stage the coup was against their own constitution. That's the very reason we never call them just simple military junta, because there are military coups in different parts of the world according to the constitution. But this military junta, in fact, violated their own constitution, and that's what the very reason we call as illegal military junta, in which after extension of the state of emergency, after 1 year, after everyone 6 months and year, now over 4 years, of course, for them, they also need to change the shell. They need to change the name. And their way out, or the exit strategy, is the election, right? So my take is that they will go ahead and go with that. And they made one manipulation, is the demographic change. So we have 330 township plus Naypyidaw Council. But that 330 township has already made some changes without transparency or public knowing of how. But so last year, they contacted the national census, and they actually published themselves that they were able to hold the national the census in maximum 150 out of 330 townships. But now, they announced that they will hold elections in 268 townships, or say 267 townships plus Naypyidaw. So then you have to, we have to start questioning how these quote-unquote election procedures have been changed. And this is something we, as civil society, are also looking into at this moment. So I'm not so sure I'm really directly answering to your inquiry or question, but I think it's very important that ASEAN is well aware of. We have informed to the ASEAN chair, Malaysia, and other stakeholders of the ASEAN or the leaders of the ASEAN with this analysis and the factual understanding of how this election and where this election will lead. But I think the challenge is, just to give you one example, like in the Karenni state, which is the smallest state of Myanmar bordering with Thailand, the democratic resistance already control over 90% of the Karenni land, right? So even Thailand border, the other side of the immigration is the Karenni. It's no longer the Myanmar military. But you will still see the capital city of the Karenni state, the military junta still has the stronghold in that capital city. And they just announced that they will hold the election there. So I think there are a lot of challenges. It's because the military also announced that they already announced the policy that political parties can hold the arms. They have invited already and allowed the China private security firms to operate in the country to protect the Chinese interest. So you see all of these different elements that military junta will use, both the coercion and also perhaps using the aid, some incentives to the people, harassment, fear. I think altogether, there seems to be, the military seems to be going with the dual track of the election, as well as there is another track, is he's trying to bribe some of the ethnic community political parties who are very tiny and small and very much proxies because they've been throughout the generations loyalists to the previous #1 military dictator in Burma, General Ne Win. So you have that generational obedience, even though they may be Karen or they may be another ethnic. So those particular individuals or the smaller parties that military state allow them will participate. So right now, they have already banned more than 40 political parties, including SNLD and the NLD. However, it doesn't mean some of the NLD people might not form another new party. We don't know, because they could still do it in another new name and form it and join if they want to, because some of them feel trapped in the country, then they may think that this is probably a way out, which is the same trap happened 15 years ago. So I don't know, it's very difficult to say at this moment, but those who, the political parties before 2020, they won less than 10% in 2020 elections. They are the one who are still allowed to operate or run in the upcoming this election. So I think the coming months are going to be more intense. And the democratic resistance already have more than 70% of the land, but it's not like, land doesn't mean that, like I said, in Karenni, the capital is still under the junta control. But then the rest of the areas are already under the Karenni interim government control, for example. So it's going to be a quite different landscape that we will be seeing in the coming time. Like in the central Myanmar, there are already interim arrangement and constitution drafting, and there are a lot of these political processes are happening. And they are happening not online from outside. They are happening by the people who are living in the country. Of course, they have to be, they have to be careful with the security because of the military But most of those liberated areas have their own people-led governance structures, service provisions for the general population, and a lot of these things are happening, including in the Karen, Mon, Tanindai, and if you go to the west, in the Chin, Rakhine, even though, yes, there is a lot of there's fightings and wars, and I think like, especially like we are not able to close the sky so that the military is still heavily relying on bombing. And I think that's something is a major, most severe challenge for the democratic resistance that people are trying on the ground.
Okay, any more questions? If not, then I want one final question for Nhan Nhi, actually for your platform 36. I guess, are there any upcoming campaign? I mean, I'm very interested in sort of, your collective of photographers. Have there been previous, I mean, as Kinomam, contextualize this whole thing, there's, it's a multi-layered situation in Myanmar, many things, conflict. You're looking at sort of, central area, you look at the sort of all the ethnic groups and so on. Are there any campaign, you think, from your group about sort of, photography that we should be looking forward to, and anything you want to raise in particular? Maybe give us an idea as well for, for in the future.
Sure. So first, I want to talk about how this exhibition start happening. So since the coup happened, the earthquake happened, so we've been, Platform 36 team is working as a sort of like a vista from people on ground and all the international media, all the platform, publishing house, etc. And then even after that, we still have a lot of these powerful images and stories. Also, we have this group of photographers, we are working, they are on ground, they are inside Myanmar. Even though it is very risky and challenging, all the roadblock, military presence, and all the, aftershock, all of this, these photographers are really, brave, and, they are risking their life to take this sort of documentation. This is the proof, this is documents. And so right now we are, so that's why we started, we decided to have an exhibition and start for a fundraising reason, also for them, this photographer. So right now we have 4 photographers in this exhibition. So we have Linka. So Linka is a professional photojournalist, but we are going all pseudonyms here at the exhibition. And we have Kosi, he's a CJ. Actually, he was he's not doing any photographs at that moment. He was taking a break. But when this happened, he actually oh, okay, I have to, because he's local at one of these places. And Zaid and Kodak, they are filmmaker, lifestyle photographer, but they are going to travel to all those places and taking photos. Actually, we have lots of videos and images from other places also, like Shanstay, Inlay, etc. But because of its very small city and area, if we publish their photos, it's gonna be really, people will immediately notice them. So we cannot display them. So we are kind of sort of delaying. So we are planning for another upcoming exhibitions and events.
Well, please keep us posted. Yeah. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. As I mentioned, before I close down this panel discussion, is that these photos are for sale. And it's going to go to a good cause. Going to help these photographers, expand their work and so on. So please think about it. And this is on our wall for the next month. So have a look, tell your friends about it and everything. So on that note, I would like to thank all our wonderful panelists for joining us on this Friday evening. If you enjoy our events, please go to our website and look at our upcoming events. We have one interesting thing coming up on next Monday, a lunchtime talk on internal reform, external strain, on Bangladesh transition and the future of the Rohingya crisis. So that should be quite interesting. Anyway, have a good evening, everyone, and take care bye thank you guys อาจารย์ครับขอบคุณมากครับ